Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session today. We'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. Stand by, top off your cup of coffee, and we'll get rolling in 2 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started. I first want to introduce our two panelists and presenters this morning. My name is Kevin Hunt. I'm with Applause, and I want to introduce you to Chris Anderson, one of the co-founders of Applause and head of the sales and customer support organization. And also with us is Jennifer Fink, who some of you might know, or all of you might know. Jennifer leads the preferred vendor program for Lennox. And they'll be your tour guides this morning. Uh, we should take about 25, 30 minutes of your time. We'll have time, plenty of time to answer questions at the end, and you'll be able to submit questions by chatting us. I'm not sure if there's a Q&A button. I should know that. We'll get back with an update on how to do that. But I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and Chris and Jennifer, take us away. I'll be back a little bit later.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kevin. Appreciate the intro. Again, my name is Chris Anderson, one of the co-founders here at Applause. I head up the sales team. Just as overall agenda, just kind of walk you through what we wanted to go over with you today is just understanding some of the field performance challenges that I'm sure you guys are running into that we see as kind of consistent trends throughout the industry. You're going to know better than anybody some of the performance challenges that you run into. We'll talk about how real-time visibility can influence your team in meaningful ways, where it can drive significant impact to a lot of the core metrics that you're tracking. And we'll talk through some of the different incentive methodologies that we found successful to drive these certain behaviors and condition these behaviors out of technicians, out of comfort advisors, out of your customer service representatives, et cetera. And then we'll walk you through a brief demo of how Applause works, what the system does, and how your technicians, your comfort advisors could interact with it. And that'll be the agenda for today. But I want to turn a little bit time over to Jen and just ask her, what were, some of the reasons that you decided that Applause was going to be a good fit for your, preferred vendor program.
All right, thanks, Chris. As I was introduced, I'm Jennifer. I am a marketing manager at Lennox and I run our preferred vendor program. So I'm excited to share that we've added Applause as a new partner into our preferred vendor program. And some of you are probably more familiar, maybe some of you are less familiar, but for those of you who may not be as familiar, our preferred vendor program is designed to connect you with trusted top tier vendors, handpicked and vetted to help you succeed. These vendors offer solutions we've evaluated with your business in mind so that you can help grow, you can operate more efficiently, and deliver a better customer experience. So you can find Applause as well as all of our other preferred vendors anytime on our Lennox Pros site under the preferred vendor tab. I'll also try to put a link into our chat box to bring you directly to that Lennox Pros preferred vendor site. So let's talk for a minute about why we brought Applause into this program. At the end of the day, a lot of your success comes down to your team, but we consistently hear the same challenges from our dealers, and that's that it's tough to keep people motivated, it's tough to track performance in a meaningful way, and tough to connect it back to results without adding more work. Those are real pain points, and it's exactly why Applause is here. And so we didn't have a vendor previously in our program that focused on this space, and we knew it was an area where our dealers needed support. So that's part of what Applause is going to do for us. They're built specifically for service businesses like yours, and they help provide real-time visibility into performance. They help automate incentives and rewards, reinforce behaviors that drive success or drive service, customer satisfaction, revenue, really simple to use, which you're going to see a little bit of today. But the result is really more engaged employees, better customer experiences, more five-star reviews, which we all want, and ultimately growth for your business. So let me now turn it back to Chris at Applause to show you exactly how they're going to bring this all to life for you.
Awesome. And with that, we're hiring Jen for our sales team. So just get ready to come on over, Jen. Appreciate the intro. We're really super excited about this partnership with Lennox. You work with a lot of great dealers that are, looking to scale and streamline a lot of things within their business. And the field space we're no stranger to it. My partner and co-founder, Taylor Olson, he originally came up with this idea because his dad was an HVAC technician and he was a lifelong HVAC technician. Sadly, he passed away a little too soon, and didn't really get the appreciation, the acknowledgement, and just kind of the incentivization within that role that Taylor thought that he deserved as somebody that worked really hard, that puts in a lot of backbreaking effort to produce for the company. So we wanted to create a tool and a method in which the technician can see in real time, what's expected of them and how they're contributing towards the rest of the team, while at the same time have some carrots dangling in front of them if they go above and beyond what's expected of each of the technicians or even comfort advisors or customer service reps. And with that, we see when we start to focus on creating that transparency and helping motivate these service technicians, it has an impact on so many different parts of our business. We see higher retention rates with our customers, right? If we're measuring quality and keeping a standard of quality, obviously the customers have better experiences, so they stay longer, they buy more from us. Technicians that are surveyed that are using these kinds of tools, they stay longer. And that's really hard to do in this in this market right now. Guys are going to be jumping from place to place for an extra couple bucks on the hour. So anything that we can do to incentivize them to gamify their environment, make their day to day a little bit more exciting is going to keep them in seat a lot longer. And one thing that we found out is, oddly enough, cash speaks. It's the main driver and main incentivizer of all of the technicians that we've interviewed and all the comfort advisors that we've interviewed. So although you may have gift cards or swag or any of these other things, that's all well and good. What really speaks to these guys is an opportunity to earn extra cash. But the key there is we want to make sure that we align these incentives and these cash incentives with the business objectives that are really going to move the needle for our company. So that's a little backstory on us about where this came to be. And I want to talk about, the challenges that you guys are facing today. And going into that, I want to kind of highlight some of the problems that we've seen in our conversations with field service. And again, you guys are no stranger to this, so I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but oftentimes it's not the service being provided to our customers that's the problem. It's usually the disparity between the performance of our technicians, right? You've got one technician that can have the same route, they can have the same customer base, but you're always going to have that one tech that outsells everybody else, right? And it doesn't necessarily always come down to their skill. It comes down to the recurring behaviors that need to happen on every call. All right. The sales skills, yes, it's helpful, but as long as they're doing the things that they should be doing on every call, there should be those opportunities for us to convert on memberships or additional options. And that's what every service needs to be perceived as, right? It's a revenue opportunity. And if we don't look at our technicians as revenue drivers, oftentimes that's not going to contribute towards the growth of our business. And ultimately the front line has the most control over those numbers, right? They're the ones that are interacting with customers. They're the ones that are, seeing these opportunities for, membership enrollment or, new water heaters, whatever it may be. So if you want a different outcome, you have to think about, well, how do I incentivize and motivate this team to do the things that align with our business objectives? And that's where we see, a bridging of the gap between your top performers and your lower performers is creating this transparency, this accountability, making it very accessible to them so they know exactly what's expected of them, so they can fulfill those expectations. Because I think everybody in their own role, they want to do a good job. Inherently that's what they want to do. But oftentimes, do they know what good looks like? That's up for debate. And oftentimes, as managers, we have a lot of that data accessible to us, but the gap that we usually see is that they can't see it, right? So what do HVAC companies that do well do differently than those that may struggle? Well, it's this idea of being proactive, right? It's not being reactive and trying to correct an issue after it's already been done. It's trying to measure that behavior in real time, reward it in real time, so that we can, affect change in those behaviors, and those behaviors start to be conditioned. And then at some point, when you do so many things, as a trend, that behavior tends to repeat. Right. So those are a few of the issues that we see that some contractors have experienced. And the other big issue is this idea of transparency towards your data. Now, again, as managers, as owners, we have a lot of data at our fingertips, right? Not all of it is actionable, but at least we've got a lot of data coming from our CRM, from our fleet management system. Maybe we have internal ways that we're taking, and tracking certain performance measures. Uh, you get to see a lot of that. But for the technician, oftentimes they have access to it within the CRM, but it's not built in a way that's very appealing to them, right? It might look something like this, right? Your typical whiteboard with some kind of leaderboard, and while this is well and good, it works. It's very manual. It's very labor intensive. You have to update it every day, and it's not super transparent towards the technician, right? You could be putting this maybe in an Excel spreadsheet, and everybody's got the link to go to the Excel spreadsheet, but it doesn't gamify the environment. It doesn't make it fun. It doesn't make it necessarily something that they're desiring to go see on a regular basis. So that's usually what we see is kind of this archaic system that a lot of companies are using to measure performance, to create competitions, to drive those behaviors, and it works. But we're going to take things a step further, and what we've built are what we call scorecards. And scorecards is ultimately a downloadable app that each one of your technicians, comfort advisors, or customer service reps would have access to. And you can build out specific scorecards for each role. What we have internally is we call them user groups. So you can take all the metrics that you're using to measure performance of any one of those roles, and you can start to set those expectations. So from a technician's perspective, now I know exactly what's expected of me, right? I know exactly what KPIs are used to measure my performance. And oh, by the way, we have an incentive tool that allows you to instantly provide, a reward in the event that those expectations are met. And we'll dive into that here in just a little bit when I go through the full demo. But that's the idea around the psychology around applause, right? We want to create transparency. We want to gamify their environment, but we also just want them to understand what's expected of them. So they know exactly what metrics they need to meet. And they want to see it on a regular basis so they know when they're making progress, when they're behind. Because ultimately, if they're seeing the whiteboard once a week or they see the TV screen as they come in for the morning, that's in their mind at that point. But throughout their day, throughout their week, do they really know what they need to do in that day-to-day activity in order to create a different outcome for that KPI? Probably not as well as they would if they had something accessible to them in the palm of their hand. We also have the ability to show all the activity that's happening amongst their peers, right? So Tyler just got a referral from one of the services that he did. John just enrolled a new membership. So we're creating this transparency not only into our own work, but the work of our peers. So it's going to drive those behaviors for us in the future as well to meet those standards that other technicians or other comfort advisors are meeting on a regular basis. Now, let's talk about this instant reward system, why that's so important. A lot of times, the current system is built to deliver bonuses, to deliver incentives via payroll, right? And that's done maybe once every 2 weeks at minimum. Maybe it's once a month. But ultimately, what's happening here is we're not tying that incentive to the exact behavior that we want to influence and we want to see repeat. So oftentimes what happens, and you could probably attest to this, is how often do you think your technicians are going into their payroll stubs, looking at all the bonuses allocated and understanding which bonuses was given for which incentive or which behavior? Chances are we might not even have like a behavior line item in there as to why they're getting that bonus. They just show a bonus for $400, right? And it just kind of gets lost in the sauce. And while it has impact, while it has, some driving, incentivizing, power, what has better power and what we've seen have more power is the frequency at which we're delivering these incentives to the technicians, tied immediately to the behavior that we want to incentivize. And oftentimes it doesn't even come down to the amount that we give that's the biggest influencer. It's the frequency, right? That's what's going to create those reminders on a regular basis. That's what's going to condition them to want to do things in the future because it's tied to that specific behavior. I like to refer to it kind of as like a Pavlov's dog effect, right? Ring a bell, get a treat, ring a bell, get a treat. The more they get those treats and the more they know what activates those treats, the more they're going to want to hear that bell, right? And that comes with consistency. That comes with a frequency, a high frequency of transparency and deliverability of those incentives over time. So if you don't have a system in place, obviously this is something that we provide as far as like an instantaneous methodology of rewarding your team. But make sure if you don't use us that you're doing something to create a consistent and frequent way to reward your team, and you're going to see the best results with that methodology. So again, idea behind this is we want to make it frequent. We want to make it transparent. We want to make it as instant as possible, and we want to tie it and align it with something internally that is driving the business forward or creating growth opportunities for us. Okay, so how does that work internally, with applause? So essentially, you saw kind of the scorecard and got a glimpse of what that looks like with all the focus metrics that, or all the metrics that could be available to show to the technician or the comfort advisor. But the way that we get them inside the app and the way that we get so much visibility into them being in the app multiple times throughout the day is we've built this cash wallet. And what this does is it acts as kind of a Venmo or a Cash App system to deliver those bonuses instantly when those metrics have been achieved, right? When those expectations have been achieved. So you can track upwards of 70 plus metrics that can come from your CRM, from other integrations with fleet management or driver scores, so that you can prioritize the things that are going to be most important for your business. Now, that's not to say that we want to overload the technicians with 70 plus metrics that they have to worry about, right? That's why we have this focus metric screen here. So you can pick the top three, top two things that are most important for your business that you need to see a behavior change in. And ultimately, that's a method where you can do so. So that is the methodology behind our instant rewards system, where we can, create more frequency in the delivery, and then tie it and align it with something that we're trying to promote within the business that is going to affect change for us. Okay. The other thing that we can start to incorporate into this scorecard is what we like to refer to as competitions. Now, each metric is always going to have its own leaderboard accessible, right? Whether you have a competition running or not, the guys can go in there to check where they're at, is stacked ranked against the rest of the team. But beyond that, if we find something or some metric that we really want to influence, the the best method that we've seen create impact is what is called a competition. Now, what you can do is build it around any one of these metrics. You can set it for any time, any cadence that you want it to be run. And once it's running, you set it and you forget it, right? And that's the beauty of applause is this idea of automation, right? There's a lot of ways that we can run competitions, and maybe you guys have run competitions in the past. You probably know that it's really cumbersome, right? Tracking everything, getting everybody their information in real time, trying to distribute those rewards. So oftentimes it's usually a one and done, or maybe a few times throughout the year, just because it does cost so much administrative time out of the management or GMs. But with this, you can identify those metrics that need help, through your CRM reporting and whatnot. And now you have a method and a vehicle to affect the output of that number, right? So if we're having struggles on memberships, easy enough. Hey, let's build a competition around memberships. Let's put $250 behind it. So first place gets, $100, second place gets 75, third gets, 50, whatever. And now what we've done is we've started to influence behaviors of the technicians, of comfort advisors, so that we can affect the output of that metric that we're trying to influence. Right. So that's the idea behind that. And when we have run some of these competitions, the results are pretty impactful and pretty staggering within very short periods of time. We see if you run qualitative competitions or qualitative incentives around customer sentiment, we see an increase of about 10% in quality of the service being provided. We've seen 20% and even 2x more membership sales in HVAC and plumbing dealers. We also see 17% lower technician turnover, right? We've gamified their environment. We've made it fun again. It's not this mundane, I just need to check a box to get things done. It's every service now is an opportunity for me to earn. And my company is willing to do that if I do the things that I want or the things that they want me to do. So again, employee and company are aligned. We're happy to pay them if they're able to get more memberships, provide more options, hit a certain close rate. And that just makes it so the technician has the opportunity to earn more, which keeps them in seat longer and ultimately makes their environment a lot more fun. We've seen 30% reduction in your callback rates. The quality of service goes up, so less technicians going out, wasting more gas to go back to the same service they should have done the first time well. And we've also seen 50% plus elimination in at-fault accidents when you're starting to create competitions and incentives around driving score. So this methodology has true impact and does save quite a bit to the bottom line in cost avoidance and cost savings. So it's really awesome to see these, take hold and create some meaningful impact for the business. Now, applause just kind of brings this all together, right? We create a method that managers can use to identify those KPIs that are most important to them. They can build incentives, they can build competitions, they can build, awareness and transparency towards the technician about what's expected of them. And ultimately, that's going to drive better customer outcomes, more customer reviews, more customer upsells, better options, et cetera. And then we just go round and round again, right? We get an upsell from a client, we service them again, they have a great experience. Maybe they give us a referral. New client, we have a great experience with them, look for more options, and we resell them on something else. So that's just kind of this wheel that applause brings to your business when you create that transparency towards those incentives and those KPIs. Now, let's jump in quickly and see if I can do this without too much of an issue, but I'll show you exactly what a technician and a customer will see. Well, let's see here. Is that the right one? Okay. So we collect a number of things that'll contribute towards these KPIs on the qualitative side of things. So after a service is completed, we're going to send a text message to the customer asking, would you like to provide us a review? And again, we can match that review to the technician in real time and maybe incentivize them $5 or $10 if that review does come in at a 5-star. Beyond that, we can ask for customer sentiment, NPS ratings, 0 out of 10. We can ask for referrals, additional leads, and each one of those things we can again tie to some kind of incentive. Now,
Chris,
if we, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The demo screen is not up. It was actually showing something else. So
Oh, okay,
apologies for
perfect.
jumping in. There we
All
go.
good. All good.
Great.
So this is what the technician will see, right? You've got your current balance that can be cashed out to the bank account at any point in time. So they have immediate access to those funds, and that creates those dopamine hits for everything that they do well. They can see all of the metrics that are being used to measure their performance. You can create tiers to say, hey, if you get 20 memberships, you get $50 this month. If you get 30, you get 100. So they're always in real time seeing where they're at and what's achievable. Total opportunities and close rate. These are our focus metrics that you get to choose that they're going to see every time that they log in. They're also going to see all the competitions that are active. Maybe you've got a Google review competition going. You can create an install competition where you can say, hey, the person that sells the most of this brand of water heater gets the first place gets 150, second gets 100, third gets 50. Right. So you can incentivize certain types of sales. You can incentivize memberships sold through competitions. But you can also create ways for them to earn every day. Maybe every Google review is $10. Every referral is $10. Every lead that they submit is another 15. Right. So there's a number of different ways now that the technician can earn, and they can track that internally from this application. Now, as I mentioned before, 70 plus metrics that you can choose from. You get to choose what is shown to the technician, what is measured, what is incentivized, and they can always jump in here to see more granularly what each competition is all about. So you can see here our Google review competition is running. We've got our install contest that's also running. Got another membership sold competition. So again, this gives you that tool and that avenue for you to, affect change in any one of the metrics that you're currently tracking. So that is what the technician experience looks like, and that's what they would see from their perspective and how they would interact with it. Now, I know we're coming up on time here, so I'll be brief with just kind of closing out here so we can get to some questions. But we see significant improvements in all these metrics that we're either creating incentives around, transparency around, or competitions around. ACS saw a huge influx in Google reviews, saving them over 37 hours of administrative labor because they bonus on technician on our automation. Just remove that from their table. We had Rocket Group double their membership sales while automating technicians' incentives, giving them visibility into those leaderboards and into membership sales. Royal Plumbing also saw driving a 180% increase in Google reviews when they ran a competition around that. So you can see that I'm not just blowing hot air. There are companies that are currently using this, seeing significant impact in any one of those metrics that they are tracking and that they are trying to promote. So with that, I know we only have a few minutes left, so I'll just kind of skip through to our end slide here. As a Lennox partner, we want to create some incentives for you to, take a look first at what it is that we do and take a closer look. And if you do that before, what would that be, June 5th, we're going to give you just $100 just for taking some time and talking with us so we can jump into it a little bit more granularly about how this would work for your company. If you'd like to scan this QR code, you can set up a time with us directly. And the other great benefit is that if you sign before June 12th, we're going to waive all of your setup fees. And that is a Lennox specific opportunity. So because you're a partner with Lennox, you get to take advantage of those savings. So hats off to Lennox for negotiating that for you as an added benefit to being part of their vendor program. So with that said, appreciate your time, appreciate your kind attention. Are there any questions that have come through, Kevin, that we can answer?
Well, let me just not yet. So to ask a question, since everybody's muted, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the word more, and it's got three dots on it. When you click on that, you'll see a bunch of icons. One of them is Q&A, a little question mark. So when you click on that, you'll actually be able to ask a question. So I'll give that a moment, see if any questions come in. Okay, we've got one, which is and another. So the first question, Chris, is how much does it cost? How much does applause cost?
Yeah, that is always the, down to brass tacks, right? So it's going to vary. It's usually based upon a user count, right? How many of your comfort advisors are going to be using this tool? How many of your technicians, customer service representatives? So it's based upon user count. It can range from our low tier kind of entry level package at about like $3,500 to $4,000 a year, all the way up to, depending upon user count, anywhere from, 10 to 15,000. Just kind of depends on how many users are going to be using the system.
Great. Next question, it's kind of a two-parter. What are the key metrics that most contractors want to track, and where's the data come from for Applause to be able to reveal that in the app?
Yeah, great questions. So ultimately, within HVAC, we know that whether you're a technician or a comfort advisor, revenue is always something that we want to be tracking on a regular basis. So membership sold is obviously one that's high priority for most HVAC plumbing organizations. Total options provided at every service, right? Making sure that the technicians are leaving those options on the table and identifying those options for potential upsell. Close rate is something that is also looked at really, really heavily. And I would say the beyond that, you're going to be looking at your recall rate for technician performance, as well as average ticket for both, comfort advisors and for technicians. Those are a few. Some ones that I would recommend, maybe outside of the sales and revenue side of things, would be driver score. Really easy to affect a great cost savings there. If your guys are driving safer, you can go back and advocate to your insurance companies for better rates. You can reduce at-fault accidents. So really, really cool metric to be tracking where you can see some direct ROI, as well as just reviews, any kind of qualitative score that comes from the customer that especially helps with our SEO and other just reputation management. Incentivize your creating competitions around that is usually something that we see pretty often. What was the second part to that question, Kevin?
Like, where does the data come from?
Oh yeah, great question. So we're
Yeah.
we're we're integrated
Yeah,
with all the big CRMs, FSMs that are out there. So Service Titan, Jobber, House Call Pro, as well as a number of the fleet management companies. So Samsara, Azuga, Links Up, et
great.
cetera. So we pull all that information with our preferred partnerships and API integrations. So all that data comes from that point of source of truth.
Got it. I think last question. From a tax perspective, talk about these incentives and bonuses. Um, so from a tax perspective, does anything change for a contractor using this vis-a-vis like how those incentives are paid out through the platform? Maybe you can walk us through that and how
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah, great question. Probably somebody that understands a little bit more about accounting than most. But yeah, with bonuses that are being distributed, we do. Uncle Sam wants their piece of the pie, as always. Whether that is distributed in a gift card or swag, all of that cost has to be associated with your taxes. So what we've done is built a payroll report, and that can be generated on whatever cadence that you would like, and that's submitted to your payroll team. And then ultimately, the bonuses that have been paid out to those individuals are going to be accounted for. And then what you'll do is you'll create a wage type that's usually labeled wages received or funds received, indicating that the employee's already taken possession of those funds. And then it will calculate the associated tax burden with those funds that have already been received and deduct that from their regular wage. So that's the path to making sure that you're compliant on the tax front.
Great. That that's all the questions. Give it a second if anybody's got any more questions. Again, Chris, you mentioned that anybody that spends some more time, goes through a demo and a discussion with somebody on the team between now and next Friday would get a $100 gift card for doing that. And if
Yes, sir.
they're so moved to want to start working with Applause, that the normal setup fees, which can be $1,000, quite often are, there would be no setup fees that would be charged to the dealer. That's correct?
Yeah, yeah, and
Okay, great.
even more so on the cost of setup. It's anywhere from
Yeah.
1,500 to
Oh,
sometimes 2,500.
right.
So
Got it.
significant savings that you could take advantage of from now until then.
Great.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks so
Oh,
much, everybody, for your
hang on
time.
real
Oh,
quick.
yeah, go ahead. We got another question
Last
popped in.
one, right before the bell. Do any of the common CRM systems not have anything like this built in already to it? And what would be the difference? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so it's there. It's whether or not the technicians are actually accessing it and going through and taking a look at their own performance metrics. Oftentimes the metrics are there, but they're not delivered in a gamified way, in a way that's very appealing and attractive to the technician or the comfort advisor. So the idea here is creating those environments for them where they're incentivized to get into the app. And the main way that we found to incentivize people is you put money in it. And funny enough, in order to cash out, they have to go and access the app and get access to their funds. We have their attention, right? So that's kind of the main driver behind the digital wallet is we want to get their attention long enough to where we can start to showcase those metrics that they're being measured against, the KPIs, the expectations, and all the other incentives that are available for them to earn, right? Within the CRM, there's not necessarily a way to do competitions in a way that's, streamlined. It's usually you have to extract the information and kind of perform it manually. No way to bonus or create
Right,
kind of those expectations that are visible for the technician for them to see, okay, this is my expectation. Here's where I'm at in real time. What incentive is afforded to me if I meet it. So there's that lack of transparency there as well. So that's what I would say is kind of the main differentiators between what you can find in the CRM. It's there because we're pulling, similar data as the source of truth, but the
right.
way we present it and the way we engage with the technicians and the employees seems to make the difference.
Terrific. Okay, I think now we've addressed all the questions. Thanks for those folks. So again, a couple of special offers here for those that attended. Thank you. We hope that you found this worthwhile, and we hope to hear again from you. We would love an opportunity to work with you, Chris. Thank you very much, Jennifer. If you're still here, thank you very much for, first of all, allowing us to become part of the preferred vendor community and for spending time with us this morning. We really, really appreciate it. And with that, I'll just wish everybody a terrific rest of the day and rest of the week. Take care,
Thanks for your
everybody.
time. Thanks,
All
Jen.
right.
Appreciate the
Bye-bye.
the partnership here.